All right, everybody, I'll go ahead and call it. Thank y'all for jumping in, and we may have other folks come with super informal, so come and go as you need. There is a hot water kettle in the hub. I didn't run coffee because we were out of decaf basically, but um, but there is I had some peppermint tea and help yourself to that. Come and go as you like. And I am going to record this so for folks who can't come that they can have it. So I just want to make you aware of that. Uh, so thank you, I think, to Aaron maybe joining us online. So I'm gonna keep it like this and draw behind me because so that folks can look at it later. But let's pray and we'll jump in. So Father in heaven, I thank you for Christ. I thank you for the family of Christ, for Sandhurst, for our equipping classes, Lord, our teachers, and that we can equip the saints for the work of the ministry, Lord, that you entrust us with the task of tending your sheep by way of making disciples, especially, and help us to do that well, wisely, thoughtfully, and help us to spur each other on as iron sharpens iron, Lord, to spur each other on to love and to good deeds. And so, Lord, help us in this time to see what you see for Sandhurst and to grow into it as we continue to grow ourselves and sharpen ourselves as we follow you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Um, so there's some cool things happening and wanted to make y'all, kind of aware. I know you're probably already aware we've been talking about the vision. And this session, this today, is really about grasping kind of the vision that Will and the elders have for the church and the equipping classes, how that fits into it, and what modifications that will involve for us as equipping class teachers. So um, there's some super cool things happening, and I really see some amazing opportunities down the road. And I'll roll them out for you now. Y'all, uh, we've talked about making disciples. He said last week, I think it was, how do we make disciples? We practice Christ's discipleship priorities in normal life environments. And those four priorities are truth, relationship, opportunity, and accountability, right? And so I'm going to kind of draw some circles that represent those four areas. So I'm going to just put a T here for truth, relationship, opportunity, and accountability. And I could go through passages for these. I'll probably not, but that's he took us through Mark, and you know he declared the gospel, started preaching the gospel. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is near. Truth, he called Peter and Andrew, hey, come follow me. Relationship, and so these you feed them, right? Opportunities. You do the work of the ministry and accountability. What were you guys talking about on the road? Let's debrief how this was going. So let's see, is everything working here? Yep. All right. So, truth, relationship, opportunity, accountability. So we see these as the discipleship priorities that Christ was showing his disciples, and we actually have four crafted environments at Sandhurst that mirror these, so they can learn these and then go practice them in their normal life environments. So the four uh, environments that mirror these are which environment specializes. Now, they all have overlap, right? We don't do just one thing in each place, right? But which environment focuses on truth? Yeah, Sunday morning gathering. So I'm just going to put, the gathering here. Sunday morning gathering. Which one focuses on relationship? Life groups, so LGs, right? Which one focuses on accountability? Small groups, core groups. So we're gonna roll out the term core groups because it's kind of for men and women. And move away from Bob groups, D groups, your group, this group, that group, and the other group. Just call them core groups. Is kind of a single sex environment, and it could be whatever you use to do accountability, whether it's goal setting, whether it's reading a book, a Bible study, or prayer group. It has many themes, but the main theme is to keep each other accountable to grow as believers, because that's really where we can kind of get down to the brass tacks as a few guys or a few girls, right? And that's where we do it. Opportunity that leaves equipping classes. So that's us right here in this opportunity, and that is a challenge because we've at least to now we've had 45 minutes in which to disciple people, to give them opportunities to think about how do we train or equip the saints to do the work of the ministry in a 45-minute class. So before we answer that question, how do we do that? And we will make, Lord willing, be talking about how to do that more. And when you think about Drew Marlowe as the South Florence football coach, what are the aspects that he has to do to make great football players? What are some things he has to do? Okay, how does he train them? Like what? Okay, so he so involves teaching. Okay, I'm going to put Drew up here, right? Right. So he has to teach the plays. So you're literally on the board X's and O's. What else? Conditioning. Okay, so we're going to put conditioning. Can we just call it the gym? You got to exercise. What else? Practice. Get on the field and do it, right? You got to run the plays. All right. So, and there's other things, he might talk about their whole life or how y'all doing in school or tutoring and other things. I'd say these are the core three. Teach them the plays, work them out, put them on the field. Can you imagine what kind of football team he'd have if he only did teaching? Okay, guys, that's it. Go home. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Friday night. Yeah, yeah. But there's no the here's the here's the statement. There is no training without practice. Is that fair? There's no training without practice. And that's where I think, for example, our universities really struggle is that how do they do that? How do they make people practice? They give them homework, right? And then, but it was interesting that Harvard Business School, I went and visited a class one day. They have a different technique. They do what they call the case study method. They don't teach, they don't give lectures. They walk in day one, they hand you the packet. The packet sets up a scenario. It's basically there's a board meeting. X people are in it. CEO is here. He's got these issues. What do you do? Boom, start the conversation. They do that. That's what they do for 2 years. And they graduate them. And you know what? They are ready. They are ready. I sat in. I did. I saw what they did. And their grades are 90% class participation. So, you can't just sit back and take it in and pretend like, oh, yeah, I'm going along with this. 90% class participation is the grade. And so uh, they make them practice it and rehearse it in the class. I say all this to say I would love for our classes to be more like that. Let's make our people chew it up. Now, we can't grade them and fail them and send them home. But I think the point is well made by Drew Marlowe and by Harvard that there just is no training without practice. And so the challenge is to us, how can we help our people practice what we're talking about in the moment? Now, Terry, you probably can imagine this well, especially in the kids ministry, how they learn things with their hands and their bodies. You can tell them about something all day long, but there's nothing like actually making a tomb and planting the grass and then watching it grow, to learn the concept of resurrection. And I can think back to Montessori school, how that I still remember that. The other thing is, I remember they asked Rich Mullins why he didn't go into preaching because, he just loved Bible teaching and preaching. And he said, how many sermons can you remember? And how many songs can you remember? And he said, I did go into preaching, but I combined it with music and class participation. And you remember it because you sing along, right? And so here's my challenge to us as teachers. How can we, I just wanted to throw this out to you guys. How can we do this more in our classrooms here? Just some thoughts off the top of your head. And by the way, what if we had a few extra minutes, What if we went to 9:50, right, instead of 9:45? So I know it sounds, I know, just not exactly breaking the bank, but 50 minutes gives us something. So thoughts on how to turn an equipping class into a true training for opportunity. Hmm. Okay, so I'm glad you said that. So Sandhurst has several kind of things going on with this vision. Sandhurst has a purpose, okay? And the purpose is to, I'm going to put love and obey God by the power of his spirit to the praise of his glory and help others do the same, right? That's what the purpose is. The strategy is to equip in the four discipleship priorities. This is still a whole kit and caboodle. This is still every church. But now we're going to get down to not just every church, but our church. So Sandhurst specializes, I'm going to call it sort of its body, in three things. And this might be new to some of you because this is going to only be rolled out in the new year. It's fine, just leave it, just kick it around, and it'll all melt. Um, is we're going to specialize in three things. We're going to specialize in, I mean, no shocker here, godly families, godly fellowship, and global impact. Those are the three areas that Will and the elders would like us as a church to really nail. So when you think about church planting, maybe think about Cornerstone. When you think about recovery, maybe think about FBT. When you think about worship, maybe you think about Palmetto Street Church of God, or one of the AOG churches. When you think about caring for Florence, and maybe you think about New Spring, or when you think about kind of like next gen, think about New Spring. And they're hoping that the Will and the elders are hoping that when people think about Sandhurst, they'll think godly families in godly fellowship for global impact. Now, I know we could probably reduce those words to families, fellowship, and mission, or something like that. We're trying to bring it all together. Now, does this feel, these three things, does this feel like Sandhurst to you? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, right, right, right. There's a lot of churches that talk about this or that, talk about being multi-generational. We really are. Okay. We're not super multiracial. We have some different, nations and races represented. But we are definitely multi-generational. And so that's great. And I think what they're saying is that the elders are saying you can't be all things to all people, and in a limited set of resources, we have to invest our budget, our funds, our expertise, our efforts in some direction at the cost of others. This is the direction they want to go in. And to say we're going to say yes to these things, to say no to some other things. And we're not saying those are bad things. We're just saying that there's a body of Christ in Florence and in the globe, in the world, and that the body comes together to do all the things, but these are the things that we want to be great at. And so if that's true, we would do well to focus our discipleship priorities in that direction. And so now there's kind of a fourth, because I know what you're thinking. Um, Aren't godly families, godly fellowship, and global impact based on the Bible? And isn't the Bible like part of, yes. So it's not one of the four environments, but definitely, we'll call it biblical studies. These would be kind of so leading to, you know, those are the four areas that these three areas plus founding on the Bible are where the elders want to focus on. And I would like us to focus our equipping classes in that direction. Now, that's kind of a big field. That's a big enough field. I mean, that's not very limiting. Okay. The more limiting thing is going to be the effort to make it less lecture and more training. That's going to be the more limiting thing because it's going to be more the delivery than the content. So that's the challenge to us is how can we make our 9 o'clock environment? Because if you think about it, in terms of what Stanhurst offers, there's no other environment that really trains people as disciples in doing the work of the ministry. I mean, that you can get some, you definitely, hopefully get some training, residual training in the gathering. You get some in your life group, and maybe even here, like our core group focuses a lot on goal setting and so that helps a lot towards training in these areas. So there's a wing here that overlaps for a reason. But the whole purpose of this environment is to train. That is the main thing of it. And so if that's true, it is my hope that the equipping classes will train with practice in these areas the people that come. Questions or thoughts so far? Right, right. That's right. Right, right. At 9 o'clock, for sure, for sure. Okay. So I haven't thought about that. No, I haven't thought about that. Um, so what I've done is I took each of these four categories and I broke them into two classes each. And I outlined, I haven't written, I've outlined 8 courses, 2 Bible study courses, 2 Godly Family courses, 2 Godly Fellowship courses, and 2 Global Impact courses. So imagine we've got 8 courses. Now, the answer to your question, I'll try to start at the end, and then the answer to your question is we hopefully explain to people that there is a purpose to all these environments, and each one of them delivers something different. Now, you can go for a week without vegetables. You can go for a year without vegetables. But if you had 10 years without vegetables, that would show up in your body. Okay. So it's our understanding that this is kind of the multivitamin, to sort of, I mean, let me just ask you, which one of these would you forfeit? Truth, relationships, opportunity, or accountability? Like, which one do you not need as a believer? Okay. But the fact is, so I think if our people, my hope is that we could challenge our people to understand these environments are not just all soup. I pick one or two or three. It's not mix and match. They're different. It's like saying, well, I'm not going to have meat next year. I'm just going to have vegetables or vice. I mean, no, I'm not going to have vitamin B. I'm going to go with vitamin, with zinc. You need both. Okay. And so it is my hope that we could challenge our people to say, look, there's an intent to all this in a design, and each environment has a design to it. Now, we're not saying you can't, if you don't go to a life group, you're not getting relationships. You may have a different way to do that. Like Larry Waring, for example, he's got a couple of guys he's met with for 20 years as a core group. They don't go to Sandhurst. They're not on our website. They're not in our system, but he has gotten accountability through that. So they don't come to our thing. He has his own thing, and that's fine. That's wonderful. Does that make sense? It's an organic way to get your own accountability. Fantastic. Will Rutt, Meets with a couple of guys. They're not on our website. They're not on a Bob group. They're not, whatever, but he meets with them twice a month and he gets his accountability through that. And it's real. And I know those guys, and I think they would report back to somebody if something was going on. Okay. So I'm not saying you have to come to 4 meetings a week. And by the way, this actually is sort of 3 events, right? So it's a Sunday morning event, 9 and 10, one event Sunday morning, one event on Wednesday evening, and then what I would call a non primetime event. That is prime time, Sunday morning and a Wednesday night. That is prime real estate in your schedule. And so we're asking for two prime real estate moments in your schedule to give 3 events and two events, 3 environments and 2 events. This one, I do it on Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. If Anna needs something, I can be back at the house before she has to go to school. Okay, so it's not prime real estate. And you just sort of offset that and figure out how to do that. And so I feel like it's a doable system when you account for the fact that we're saying, do this on your own time, twice a month, once a month, whatever fits. And then we're asking for 2 moments each week, Sunday morning and Wednesday night, or whenever your life group meets. Ours meets on Sundays, 4 to 6. So it opens up our whole week. And so we're saying, my hope is that we can cast vision. That's the main way to get people there. And then the second thing is to show them the system of what we're going through really matters. Okay, so like the 8 courses are Old Testament studies and New Testament studies. That's the 2 Bible ones. And I actually have built into those, I have canon, Bible reliability, and a couple, other when they finish these 2 courses, they should know their whole Bible, like the anatomy of the whole Bible, how it works, how to study all the major genres, and why we can trust it if you'll come to those 2 courses. Yeah, OTI, NTI, Old Testament intro, New Testament intro. Second, Godly Families. This is going to be the first one is marriage and parenting, and the second one is extended family and relationships. So marriage and parenting, core skills, communication, etc., and then discipline, and then extended family, and other and friendships and relationships, how to handle and manage those, and be a great extended family member. 2 godly fellowship classes. The first one it is going to be vertical fellowship, so it's personal spiritual life. It's what we used to call spiritual disciplines. Okay, think Whitney, think those guys. I've got the books here. The spiritual disciplines. So we're going to go over the 7 core spiritual disciplines of fasting, Bible study, prayer, Sabbath. I think giving is in this one, and in 1 or 2 others. The 7 core spiritual disciplines that are vertical fellowship, because out of that flows horizontal fellowship. And so then it's going to be how to be a church family member, and it'll be the 7 group disciplines, which include gathered worship, serving, and I've got those listed out. So that's the 2 fellowship: vertical fellowship with God, personal spiritual disciplines, and horizontal fellowship with others. Finally, global impact. First course is biblical and cultural foundations. So biblical foundations plus worldviews. Second one is personal engagement. We're going to train you in 5 different methods of evangelism. Which of those 8 courses you want to drop? Okay. So the idea is to A, see the whole ecology, and then B, see we're offering 8 key, we're calling them key courses. Okay. Key courses. Now, there will be others. Sure, there'll be electives, nothing's happening. That's fine. That's great. But it is my hope that all of Sandhurst will go through our 8 key courses. And that we could say at the end of 2 years or 3 years, the way I have it designed now is that we're going to break up the semester, which is 21 weeks in the spring and 20 weeks in the fall. So it's 41 weeks in a year. So out of 21 and 20, we're going to break them half and half, right? So we're going to go, actually, I think there'll be 1 intro week, and then 10, and then 10, 10, and then 10. So you could go through 4 classes in a year. There'll be 10 weeks each. That's quick. But if you did it in a second year, you can go through all 8 key courses in 2 years. Good question. So my hope, and let me see, I don't know if I can. Right, let me see if I can make this. I don't know if I can get this to come up or not. Let me see if I can do this. Open displays preferences. Show mirroring options. Mirror displays. All right, good. Um, I hope this is working out for the people online. Um, I'm gonna see if I can quit system preferences. Yep. Okay, so if I can get down to okay, this is this. Don't get overwhelmed here. Just stay with me. Okay, here's the eight. Uh, here's the eight courses. Old Testament, canon, purpose, history, liability. Then content is going to be creation, fall, patriarchs, Exodus, Judges, Kings, exile, return, files and methods. And here's the resources. So Old Testament intro, New Testament intro, same thing. Marriage and parenting, extended family, fellowship with God. Here's the spiritual disciplines: scripture, prayer, journaling, Sabbath, giving, lament, and gifts. That's your own personal spiritual gifts. Fellowship with people, horizontal, practicing the life of Christ together as a body, friendship, partnership, service, care, hospitality, leadership, and accountability. Global impact 1, global impact 2. And then my thought was to run them like this. Okay. So run them 2 at a time. Okay. They can't see it online. Sorry, online people. Yeah, I think, see if I can aim it that way. um, so, if the person could go straight through here, they would do that. OTI, NTI, marriage and parenting, extended family, and then cut over here to personal spiritual life, church spiritual life, and then global impact 1 and 2. And this is biblical and cultural foundations, personal engagement. So they would do this, right? And so, but all 8 courses would be offered every year. So this is year 1, spring 1, spring 2, fall 1, fall 2, spring 1, spring 2, fall 1, fall 2. That's what's year 1, year 2. Now that's a way to do it. That is a way to do it. And then here's my hope. So we have the men's class. Is that right? Yeah. Men's class, the women's class. And I put you right there, Ron. Scripture study. I had you just doing scripture study every time. I mean, you see what you want to do. We can figure that out. And then electives are electives, maybe whatever. But on this chart, at least, the men and the women are tracking with what I call the flagship class. We're putting it in the gym. The main, like the big one. Like if everyone came, the flagship class is in there, and we would have however many people in that, and it would just kind of go through. And then there would be a second class in here, a smaller class, and then men, women, and whatnot. It's my hope, guys, and then this is a lot, that we as a team would take our people through all 8 key courses first. And that pretty much is our next 2 years. My suggestion to get this going, because this is a lot of new stuff and a new concept of trying to practice, is that starting in January for 10 weeks, we just have 1 class and I teach it. And all the classes come together. All you teachers and all the students come together, and we put out 20 tables in the fellowship hall, and we all do the same class together. And I would probably take parts of personal spiritual life and corporate spiritual life. Will wants me to do that sort of that fellowship module, and involve you guys, our equipping class teachers, with me in teaching those first 10 weeks. And the 3 parts of the class are, each class would have a part where it's like, I do, we do, and then we send them off with, you do. Will says, you do by. I do is content. We do is break up into groups and talk about it, practice, and then it has a second part, which is what? Debrief. We debrief. Okay, what'd y'all find? And then at the end of the debrief, you go do it. So that's why I said about I'd like to go from 9 to 9:50. My hope is in the classes, this is all completely 1.0, just throwing the thing on the wall. Let's just figure, but what if we had 20 minutes of this? What if we had 10 minutes of this? What if we had 10 minutes of this? That's 40 minutes. And then we can fill it in. And it doesn't have to be 10 minutes straight. We're sitting staring at each other. It could be here's the first case scenario, like Harvard. I'm into it 5 minutes. Now talk a minute. It can be back and forth, but I would love to reduce content to increase participation and practice. Not every single class is going to lend itself to that as easily, but that's why we teachers are under the challenge. We're trying to make disciples who can go home and do what we did here, not just go, ooh, that was awesome. Yeah, one class. Every single person who comes, we put out 20 tables in the fellowship hall so we can handle everybody. And then that we as teachers, y'all rotate partnering with me to teach. And we work together during the week to prepare the lesson in this format. So week one, I'm with Terry. Week two, I'm with Ron. Week three, I'm with Josh. And we work through like that. Week four, I'm with Eric. Week five, and we just work through it together. And our students are watching this. We're watching this, and we see how this goes. And at the end of the 10 weeks, we may have a totally different. I don't care about that. What I care about is we try to find a way to just do more practice. And that when they get out to kind of, to Josh's point, they can say, I can tell you before you walk into this class, when you leave here in 10 weeks, you'll have these skills. If you come and you do what we're doing, you'll have these skills. You'll know how to defend the Bible's canonicity. You'll know where to go. You'll day one, we'll show them a couple of websites. Get out your phones, get on those websites. See if it makes sense to you, where we just showed you the Canon Institute, how it defends that, and they can go and they can show their buddy over there at Panera Bread now an article by an Oxford graduate that shows where they get the canon. They didn't make it up in the fourth century. Okay. And so my hope is that we won't just be giving them lectures and sheets. They'll walk out at the end of 10 weeks, they'll be able to say, okay, I know how to read my Old Testament. I know how to read my New Testament. I have 7 spiritual disciplines. I know to do those. I have 7 corporate disciplines. I know to do those. I got some communication strategies for my wife and for my kids. I got some communication strategies for my extended family and friends. I know what God's doing in the world and the biblical foundations for that. I know how to share the gospel. What if in 2, 3 years, every Sandhurst member could do that? That would be revolutionary. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. It's actually working. Hmm. Yeah. I am a great evangelist for my Bob group. You know why? Because it has really helped me. It's not something I do because I'm supposed to. Those guys, I was texting them this morning. Hey, I've got this thing coming up. Pray for me, X, Y, Z. They wrote me this afternoon. Hey, what happened? Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't report back. You know, and like, and so like it helps me. And one of them wrote back and said, "Hey, when you said that, it reminded me I had to X, Y, Z too, and I did that." And and you can just see it helping. You can see it working. And to me, I don't have to like force myself to get up and go to Panera on Thursday mornings because I know I need those guys. They really help me in my life. And I know that our group of teachers can really help our people in their real lives, not just talking about cool stuff, but really help them in their real lives, make a real difference. Right. Well, think about 40 years of Sunday school model. Hmm. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. So my hope would be that in the first 10 weeks, let's just say that we all kind of develop really this process together. I mean, because right now it's on paper, but we develop this process together as a team of teachers. And by the end of week 10, we realize, okay, here's the model, kind of here's how we're going to, the template for a class. And now we're going to break up into our own classes. And it would be my hope that I would continue to lead the flagship, the big class in the gym. And then we'd have the breakout classes, the men, the women, Ron, and a second class here that's kind of on the other track, kind of the mirror track, right? And that we would go on from there and we would keep in touch with each other and just encourage each other in that discipline. But it would be my preference that the men's class, the women's class would follow me in the flagship class. We'd be doing the same thing. So if I go to OTI, men and women are doing OTI. And the advantage of that is we got momentum, we got camaraderie. And if if couples want to go to the men and women's class, they're doing the same thing. They're learning the same stuff. And we're all kind of learning it together. And Ron, I was gonna kind of tag your class for advanced Bible study methods. So you're kind of not necessarily one of the eight. You can pick it if you want, and we'd love to have you as a part of the whole thing. But you have a unique opportunity, I think, also to have kind of a track that is 2.0, and we could work on that depending on what you see as kind of the vision that you have as a teacher and the class that you have. So we can talk about if you feel like, hey, no, I want to take my people through this too. Great, would love to have you just go straight through the track with us. Or, like I said, advanced Bible study methods, and we can work on what those are. One of the things is I would love, we've talked about, we have that sheet, the Bible study methods, like it's like and the entire course that we put on one page. I would love for our people to be conversant with that sheet of paper. They know what that is. They know what those resources are. They know where to find it. They know how to use it. And it's stuck in their Bible, and they pull it out to remind them what the process is. So, and Ron said, what you might do is do either a further sheet or who knows what. We can talk about that. This is a big deal, but it's also, to me, it's moving us kind of beyond the land of the judges, which is good and bad, right? Where everyone does what's right in their own eyes. That's been great because there's a lot to do. But instead of just saying, just go do something, let's say, let's actually do this on purpose. We're not just trying to create any disciples. We're trying to create these disciples. Okay. And we're not just saying it, we're actually producing environments that would produce that. So, when we say we want to have, when we say our purpose is to love and obey God by the power of the Spirit, praise of the Lord, help us do the same. And our strategy is to practice the 4 discipleship priorities in normal life environments. We have to learn those discipleship priorities in crafted or designed discipleship environments so that they can go practice them in normal life environments. So if we have them for 3 events a week, a Sunday morning, a Wednesday night, and a third, let's make sure that the vitamin is a fully balanced multivitamin. And if they went through our discipleship process, we would actually succeed in creating healthy, well-rounded disciples. I've been thinking of this for months. So that's probably a lot to take in 30 minutes. Um, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Said. Yeah. 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 So that is a great question. Um, I will come right back to that. Will is planning to start off the year with a sermon series that rolls all this out. So that's going to help us. But yeah, you're right. We need to warn people ahead of time. Yes, yeah, yeah, you're right. We're going to have him before he does. Yeah. So that's a good question, Terry. Um, Right. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Right. And then we'll go back to, I agree. I agree. We need to start turning the ship now. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Yep. Yep. Mid-March. That's right. Yes. Yes. 100%. No, 100%. Yeah. And so um I haven't thought that far ahead. So I don't have a great answer for that, but you're right. We need to start turning the ship. Okay, yeah, yeah. But thoughts from, yeah, right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 We attract them, right? Because that's a part of our DNA. Um, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. 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 Okay. I wonder about from the stage though. Yeah. And that's a big enough deal that I would, yeah. I think both of, yeah. 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 That's true. No, 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 no. Right. Right. Is this okay? Right. Right. Yeah. Yes. Good point. Yep. That's right. Yep. Yes. Yes. Yeah. That is a great idea. Yeah. 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 It's Reflection Sunday. Yeah. So it's always the last 9 o'clock of the year, whatever that is, December 28th or whatever. Yeah. 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 I agree with. Yeah. 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 I do remember that. Yeah. There's a lot of momentum. Yeah, yeah. People will come. Yeah, if you feed them, they will come. So I do agree with Terry and Josh. I think all 3 points. I think a first touch point would be in the classes, a second touch point would be from the stage, and then a third touch point would be the Reflection Sunday to prepare people, and then a fourth touch point would be the kickoff breakfast. To say this is how we're and just kind of just keep turning the ship. I like the idea of announcing it first in the classes, like you say, so you can just debrief it one on a few. You're right, because if they're caught up, they'll be looking down the road going, "What do you think about it?" Yeah, wait, what? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I agree. The classes is the place to roll it out first, then on here, and then reflection, and then the New Year kickoff. I think that's a good way to turn the ship. Um, and our hope is that we're not just changing it to because we got this cool new thing. Like this is the vision. It is the vision, and it is our church. It's what we want to be great at. And we're going to make sure that we can all do this. And we're going to be training each other. Like you say, there's a we do component to this. So come and be a part of it. We need each other to do this. When you're in here on Sundays, some days you feel like singing the Glorias, and some day you need the guy next to you to do it, you know? And so that's why we all come. Yeah. Yeah. Right. We've done. Yeah. We've done all of this. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And this may be a tough sell, but Piper addresses, what about singles for your marriage and parenting classes and stuff? I wish they would come. You know, um, who knows if you'll be married or not? But even if you're not, just so that we as a church can have a common understanding and a common vocabulary around these concepts. It is important for us to understand because if I have to explain everything to my mom why I'm parenting the way I do, that's hard. But what if Bob Gray would do it? And she would come to the parenting class and see, oh, this is why he's doing what he's doing. It would help strengthen extended families for those older single grannies to see why they're what they're teaching in marriage and parenting. And it would help our whole body for us to share that perspective, that biblical perspective, and that practical outworking. This is how we see marriage. This is how we see parenting, how it's rooted in the scriptures, how it works out in real life as a whole body, not just the few folks with the kids at home. All of us see this. And I think there's a real value to that. Right. Mhm. Right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. And maybe along those lines, absolutely. Yeah. We could restructure the classes. This is all on the table. What if we did, instead of doing marriage parenting and then extended, what if we did singlehood and marriage in the same class, in the same 10 weeks? And so that they could kind of understand each other. And then in the second 10 weeks, we did um, parenting and extended family, because even if you're single, you have extended family, and that way there's something for everyone in each class. Marriage. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's right. And that's right. That's right. Absolutely. Heather and I are married, but if we started with 4 or 5 weeks, whatever, of singlehood, we have three young singles in our family, John, Paul, and Anna. And it'd be helpful for us to know what is some teaching on that for them, right? As we think about parenting single adult children, right? So there's a lot of overlap. And we could design those courses so that we could all go to them and benefit. Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And so what I did was I played around with it with the template, the I do, we do, you do, buy. And for what it's worth, and this is again just an early brainstorm. So I took the sheet of paper and I said, what if each class, the you do buy is the bottom's like it's just a reminder to do the homework. But we'd essentially divided it into three parts. So we've got the I do here, which is the teaching. Then we've got, and that's actually, what if we had a deal where we actually put the content, the key points up there in on the sheet. Second third of the page is we do, which is the training. So I'm going to call that practice. Third part is the debrief. Debrief. And then so here they take their own notes. Here they take their own notes. And now they when they leave, they practice these things throughout the week. And they would hopefully have 10 of those at the end of a course. And that's how you know people like, oh, how do you know if you're training them? If we have a sheet that has places for training and they're filling in stuff. And by the way, when I went did this model, I practiced it on the men's class a few weeks ago. Guess what? It impacted how I teach, because it can't just be info dump. It has to be something they can wrestle with, right? And so I took them through some stuff and then said, okay, now here's the questions I wrestled with as I developed that. You wrestle with it. Now, some individually, some 2, 3, just look around, whatever. We can figure out how we want them to do that, what that's going to look like. And then at the end, okay, where do we get on this? And it was really funny, the feedback, like who spoke, what they said, just interesting. And then, but that was just the first kind of a shot in the dark. What if we really worked together as a teaching team to figure this process out? And we could say, this is how we know we're equipping you, is that we're teaching in a way that you can practice what we just said, and you can debrief actual sort of like group teaching. Now we're teaching each other and sharing the fruit of that and taking those notes. And then this next week is practicing what we just did in the debrief. I'd like to. I'd like to. Yes. Ah, right. Know that now. Yes. Okay, Terry, what do you think about X? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the only thing that is non-negotiable is these topics, because that's not my vision, that's the elder's vision. And the other thing is this, that equipping classes have to be the opportunity environment. Everything else is on the table. That's on the table. That's on the table. Like everything else is on the table. So how we do it. So my thought would be, what if in the early part of this week, I could design a 10-week course and kind of take part of personal spiritual life, part of the group spiritual life, so we could just see kind of how it would work together. And I could map out the 10 topics and then put them out to y'all and just say, who wants what? And y'all pick. Oh, I love prayer. I love this. I love, and then we can sit down and decide. And honestly, that was just like a starting point. Like I really don't know. And I am the worst. Like Terry is so much better facilitator. I'm the worst facilitator because I love to teach. And so I'm gonna need help in figuring out how to do that. So I don't just ram through and go back to info dump mode. I just can't do that. It's just like Drew. He can't get overly enamored with the X's and O's on the board. He's got to get them onto the field. I just love the X's and O's. I love to design plays. And I could talk about that all day long. But you got to get them on the field or they will not learn. And you and I both know that, first of all, there's no such thing as compulsory education. And secondly, the main things that you remember and that you learn, you thought yourself. You got to that point in the sermon before he did, or you got to that point in the illustration before she did. You know, you're what you're really learning is the horizon of where God is talking to you in that moment. And we've got to give him that space in our classes somehow.
I like the vision.
Yeah. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yes. And the advent of YouTube has been a double-edged sword. I cannot tell you how many people, good, like long time, mature believers, are coming to me with the most bizarre things that they heard on a YouTube talk. And I'm having to answer. I had a seasoned believer challenge me in the hallway, almost angry. Why did they take out all the verses about the Trinity? Yes. And I was like, I'm so glad whoever they are did because there weren't any. That's why they took them out. What? Yeah. And because they saw this this YouTube guy. I mean, people just love a conspiracy theory. They took out all the verses, and another a longtime member came to the again. I, why are we reading the Bible like this? Because the Pope set the canon, and I'm like, so glad you said that. And I gave him 3 books of mine to borrow this week. But I'm answering the same, no offense, but stupid questions over and over and over again. What if we could answer them one time, like, and give people resources to go? This is where you go for places of canon. This is where you go for solid New Testament studies. This is where you go. This is where you go to Bible Hub. This is where you go to Blue Letter Bible. This is where you go to Step Bible and learn how to look into the language. This is where you go for that stuff. And when you don't know it, come to us and we'll point you in a good, safe direction. Here's 10 solid teachers you can search. If they've taught on this topic, you can trust this, and don't go to your Yahoo friend out and whatever, you know, and right, right, right. That's right. That's right. Right. Yes. Yeah. So that's where my hope is that yes, if they go through OTI and NTI, they will know where to go for the good stuff. No. So Will wanted me to start here. Yeah. And yeah, yeah. Ezekiel. So he wanted me to start with no, I'm sorry. Oops, 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 I got that totally wrong. He wanted me to start here, Godly Fellowship. So he wanted me to start with a few weeks of vertical fellowship, like the individual spiritual disciplines, and then cut over to a few weeks of the corporate spiritual disciplines because it would have a very yeah, I'm sorry, it was this one. Yeah. So because that's more of a felt need. Like, how do I know God and how do I like operate as a church member? Yeah. And yes, yes, right. And this would be combining two of the courses. So at that point, after the 10 weeks, we could figure out we going to start at the top and go down or what? And that would be a conversation for us to have. It'd be Yeah, 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 yeah. No, we'll decide, early enough in January because we'll need to get you your topics and classes and whatever. And my hope is that early on in the year, we'll figure out the template and we'll figure out how to fill it in. And then I'll work with you on the content, like, and I'll be actually driving the content for the main class, for the flagship and the men women classes. I'll be driving the primary of the content. And what I'll do is at least for the lesson that I did already, the sort of sort of like sample lesson plan, I put the stuff that I wanted to be shared in all three classes in bold blue, and then my supplemental stuff was in black. And the bold blue is just the headers, really. And that's shared language. And then if you want to use my black filler content, go ahead. And if you have your own thing, go ahead. But the blue, the core header points is what would go in here, what they would see. And then you could fill it in with your own illustrations or use mine. And I would be generating that content. But I would love to generate it in context with more people. Like, so like Ron, I'd love to sit down with you and work through the biblical studies classes. And then, and then Becca and you guys for the other classes, where people want to step in. Obviously, Bo will have a big role in developing global impact content. So what I'm hoping to do is in the 10 weeks that we have to roll out, that'll buy us enough time to start building out the rest of it. So that come mid to late March, we're ready to kick off the full slate of classes. And yeah, because I mean, y'all doing 30,000 feet or had been doing 30,000 feet, right, right. Yeah, see, I think what I would do is I would want us, and not just me. Okay, I want everybody to say these words, whatever. I would want to work together with the teachers who have an interest in that area. What do we as a church think is vital for our people to know about this? And we'd come up with that together. No, that is not pushing it too much. That will be simple. Yes, yes, yes. No, I mean that will take an hour because it's I could just look at those two courses, pick out the top things, and say that very simple, and then I could throw it out to the group and say who wants what. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I would just kind of meet week to week with the individual teachers or be corresponding, calling, texting, just to develop that. Van Malson's Flores. Yeah, two units. Yeah, yeah. But we can, yeah, yeah. And that's where we could throw, like you say, we could pair up. And so and I'm happy to take even a backseat role to the teachers leading the classes. And my main function would be to help build it out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Yes, that's right. This is we do. This is I do, right? 10 weeks is we do. And then you do by, right? And yeah, yeah, yeah. And there is an absolute place for teaching. There really is. And there's going to be a lot of teaching in that first section. Um, and then other environments for teaching. But the hope is that the sum of the event would be equipping, would be would be practicing. That we look at the X's and O's and then literally go run the plays and then talk about how that went. And then we take that sheet with us, hopefully, and we have something now to practice throughout the week. Thoughts, Ron? Do you have any? Okay. No. Okay. Do you and Fred have different styles that way? But you involve your class. You don't just lecture at them. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I wonder if you could teach our people to teach themselves. Do what you did. Teach our people how to teach themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. That's right. Right. Yeah. And so that in that case, Ron, your class would probably be less about 20 10 10, and your class would be more about like, you know, 5 1 1, 5 1 1. You'd be working them through something, discuss it. All right, what did y'all see? All right, come back in here. And my hope is that they would learn your process of thinking by walking with you through it. And I'm with you, honestly. Seminary was fine, but most of what I know, what I teach, what I do, I taught myself too. But what it did for me was it pointed me in the right direction for the resources to figure it out. And that's what I hope we can do. And that's what I hope. And then I believe your class would do too. So you don't have to come do that or whatever. But I think if you could help train your people to do what you did, that would be amazing. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Think about Socrates, one of the most famous philosophers of all times. All he did was ask questions. And that's one thing that Simon Sinek says, the business guru says his greatest boss of all time never gave him an answer. He'd say, "What should I do?" And the boss would say, "What do you think you should do?" He said, "Well, I don't know. So I'm asking you. Where would you start?" "I'd start here. Start there." And he would just kind of just keep poking him back into his own stuff. And so um, I think that would be a great way to lead a class. Okay, what do y'all think about this verse? Where would y'all start? What do you think about it? And then train them in to do what you can do. But how it works, we'll figure that out as we go. I think the main concept here is that we want to try to make disciples who can help others, and that we are offering four categories that we want to be great. And here's some skills. And if you come at 9 o'clock, you can practice these skills, and we can give you a way to practice the things that we talk about in the other environments. And then you can help others do the same. And so maybe not all the Yahoo questions will come to us. Our people will be able now to help others. Yes, that's it. Yes, 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 yes. Yep. Yes, this is not a secret. Consider it rolled out. Yeah, 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 yeah. People start to ask, right? Because next week is the last week. This coming Sunday. Yeah, yeah. Right, 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 right. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Well, man, great questions. Yeah, thanks for asking. So first of all is accountability to get the list out this week, and let's get that booked for the next 10 weeks. That'd be the first thing. Second thing is I would love to sit down with groups who are interested in helping shape, brainstorm the content of those kind of four categories. What are the things that people need to know in marriage and parenting? Are these the right resources? Are there other ones? And let's brainstorm the skills and the resources we want people to walk out of those courses with. And that will probably be something we do early in the year, not before Christmas. Um, and then as we think through the schedule and together, how should this look? How can we roll it out? Um, and make sure that the goal is actually serving the purpose, that people are really learning this opportunity, the opportunity to feed people, that we're not just latching onto a system, but we're keeping our eyes on the purpose and the strategy, saying that this is a way to do it. It's not the only way to do it, and but we're going to try to focus so to help us do that, and so to speak into your area of expertise, to craft those. And then my thought would be by you know uh mid-Feb, we would kind of have a vision for where the rest of the year will go. And then there may be bits and pieces that, hey, Terry's like, I love the canon, or you're like, I love disciplining kids, and we could all kind of pitch in our different pieces to the parts or whatever, and then we can actually, because I would love to not write all the courses. I would love to share that with people who have a vision, heart, and a passion for those things. Yeah, that's a good question. We should probably have like the batting cages. Like what if we all met at some point, like maybe towards the end of that 10 weeks, week 6, week 7, when we've kind of seen it a few times, and we said, okay, let's each take 5 minutes and kind of run through a template and try it and see how it works for us. Or yeah, get together and ask, do we see how this is going? Do we have any questions about how to do it? Hmm. Right. That is it. That's in a whole in a sentence. That's it. Way easier. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How are we doing with this? I mean, even when I did that one men's class, and I was trying to walk through the template, like it was hard for me to kind of recalibrate how I was going to approach that class. And even the content part was impacted by I know that we're going to have a we do part. So what am I going to give them that they can work on together so that we can debrief and then they can, it was challenging. Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Right. That's right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Right. Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We need to be able to deliver whatever they need in the class as much as possible. Like Heather was like, why don't you do a flipped classroom where you send out videos of the content beforehand and they all watch it and they come and do the homework in the class? And I was like, that would be awesome. Except one person in 100 would do it. Yeah. So I was like, that's a cool idea. And but no. And so to your point, Terry, like with my Bob group, I'm working on hard on goals. I got other things going on besides these equipping classes. Like, and so if I come and I get all this homework from an equipping class, what am I going to do about the Bible study I'm in or the Bob group, whatever, core group? And so I feel like that these eight key classes need to be basically a lab. They come in and they do it and they walk out with the skill. And they can choose to keep using it or not, but they have it and they can come back to it when the time is right if they need to. And what if at the end of 2 years they had eight folders with those 10 sheets each? They can take someone through an Old Testament. They can take someone through. They can go back and look at their notes, figure out how to approach Micah or how to approach Romans. And oh yeah, that's right. And it's there. The reference is there. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yes. That's it. That's right. That's right. Yes. It's Bible tech school, right? Did anyone here do back in the day EE when you would go out sharing witnessing and you they call it on the job training and you come back and share about how it went? That's the concept only in 50 minutes, right? Or, people don't realize that medical school is 4 years. It's only 2 years of classes, and then it's 2 full years of rotations. And they just go through for 2 years what they read. And so we're not going to divide it up quite so cleanly, but that's the concept, our tech school concept, here, Drew Marlowe, here's the X's and O's, go out, run the play. How'd that go? Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, 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 10%. Well, and one, and we maybe, but the reason that I asked for 950 was at least for me. Now it may work differently in different classes, but for me, I thought, okay, if I get a start at 9 or 9:05, if I'm still teaching at 9 when the clock hits 9:30, I need to stop. And that still gets us 20 minutes to practice and debrief. But if we only go till 9:45, if I'm talking at 9:30, that's not gonna be enough. And so I thought, okay, um, let's give us a few more minutes, and 9:30 would be kind of my drop dead. Make sure that we are practicing something, and then coming back. And then we still have 20 minutes from 9:30 to 9:50. Yes, yes, yes. And so, yeah, absolutely. And as an engineer on this may be challenging, because if it feels like we're moving the goalposts every week, but there's going to be some topics, like you say, that are going to be a 35-minute lecture and a 5-minute practice. Because right, okay, or I mean, like canon and where to find things. I mean, how do you practice that, right? So like, there's going to be some more content heavy weeks, but to your point, evangelism, conflict resolution and parenting, some other things. I mean, there's going to be some weeks that we do have 30, 40 minutes of practice, and we're going to talk through it. And we'll, even with the staff, if Becca knows that when he taught us the one verse method of evangelism, he taught it in about 5, 10 minutes. He made us go practice it on each other for 10 minutes. We came back and debriefed it for 10 more minutes. Then we practiced it again, and then we came back again. And so, by the end of an hour, he had talked 10 minutes and we had practiced for 50 and debriefed. But that's how you learn. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. So you're right. So some courses, some lectures, weeks will be heavier on the presentation. Some will be heavier on the practice, and that'll be the art, figuring out what's in front of you. So thank you guys. We'll kind of tie this off and close up. Yes. Yes. Well, I probably will slot them on the weeks. Yeah. And if somebody says, I really want that the week before, we can talk about it. All right. But I'm going to propose topics on a week, and then, so how to announce it. Yeah, this Sunday, because it should be announced this Sunday in the class. And then the next Sunday, probably up front. And then the next Sunday is the reflection Sunday. And it's just one each week. Yeah. So probably we will do a breakfast, a kickoff breakfast, and then we'll have 10, 10, 10, 10, and we'll probably stick with that. And every year, I think it is like this, because between January and May, for whatever, the way the holidays work out, it's like we don't meet on Easter, but that accounts for it. And here, we don't meet on Carol Sing and Reflection Sunday, but that also accounts for it, because there's only 41 weeks, when you add up Power Up Clubs, and then you've got Missions Month, and that there's your 3 weeks: Easter, caroling, reflection, and then June, July. So there's your 52. Yeah. And June, July will continue on. So we'll still do missions in June. We'll still do kind of a theme in July. And this is just for the spring and the fall. Thank y'all for coming. I'll pray us out and we'll close. Father in heaven, again, we thank you for Christ, for the family of Christ. And I thank you for the vision that our elders have. And I pray that you would help us to run with it, not just because it's their vision, but because we believe you've given us gifting as a body. We're not just gravitating towards topics. We're good at these. And we need to contribute this to the body of Christ in Florence. We need to contribute solid, sound biblical teaching and biblical study skills, biblical families, godly fellowship, and global impact. Lord, these are things that we have gotten good at over the decades. Help us to get even better at it, to hone our skills, to make disciples that can teach others to do these things. And Lord, I thank you that we don't have to be everything. We just have to be us. So help us to do that, Lord, with all of what you've given us, and to give it back to you, Lord, with all of our might. May it be for your glory, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right. Thank y'all. Thank you, Aaron.